This is the Debbie Perkins Radio Show. And here's your host, Debbie.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show. And I'm Debbie Perkins, and I'm your host, of course. And I have a great guest this evening, Adam Marcus. You should recognize him. He is a film director. He was born in Westport, Connecticut, and attended Staples High School. His career began at the age of 15, which I think is incredible, to find a focus so early in life and for what he's done in his amazing career. He created Westport Theatrical Works Theatrical Company, and he directed over 50 shows in 7 years. Now, that's just the beginning of his career, and he has so much more. And you'll recognize him when you hear Jason Goes to Hell. So I'm going to bring him aboard because he has such an extensive, wonderful, amazing career. Let's get into it. So welcome to the show, Adam. Wow.
Hi.
I didn't even touch the surface, did I? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. No, I started young, that's for sure.
15, though. Wow. That's really, 15's, you think about 15-year-olds today, they can't get their faces out of the game. So I'm wondering how, in your time when you were 15 years old, what inspired you to go that direction? Because that is serious business.
Well, I got to tell you, the funny thing is that there's a lot of information about me out there, and 15 is absolutely when I started my first company. It's when I created Westport Theater Works. But in truth, I was already working in film and theater from the time I was 11. So so I actually started at 11 professionally. My best friend growing up was this kid named Noel Cunningham, and his dad was Sean S. Cunningham, the man who directed and produced the first Friday the 13th, among many other films as well. So I was kind of baked into this filmmaking ritual at a very young age. Also, my entire family were involved in the arts. So my uncle is a wonderful guy named Ned Eisenberg, who's what you would call that guy. You might not know his name, but the minute you see his face, you're like, oh, I know that guy. And he was one of the stars of The Burning in 1981. And then my uncle Joe Ellison is a writer and director and producer as well. He made a terrific movie called Don't Go in the House, which became sort of a horror classic in 1980. And in fact would play in the same theater with Friday the 13th, funny enough. So,
wow. How exciting for you to see your relatives be so successful at such a young age. Is that absolutely how you were inspired?
No, I was very lucky. Look, I feel very blessed to have been born into a household of artists. That's an amazing gift to be able to be given for literally, not accomplishing anything, which is amazing. And the thing is that it gave me the bug to want to be involved in the arts heavily as a child. Well, because I was so close with Sean Cunningham, I was doing PA work for him as a kid. And then I was apprentice editing by the time I was 13 for Columbia Pictures.
Wow.
So I really fell in love with all of this, with this craft. And amazingly, got a chance to work on some pretty extraordinary projects. And then I started my own theater company in Westport, even though I was actually born in New York, in Manhattan. And my father lived in Manhattan. My mother lived in Connecticut. So I kind of bounced back and forth between, time doing stuff in New York and on Broadway and then back in Connecticut. And I had this brilliant mentor, this guy named Al Pia, who ran 3 theaters in Connecticut. He had been a Broadway director. He was a remarkable, remarkable artist. And he took me under his wing and really taught me the ropes and taught me, respect for actors. He would sit with me and go through Stanislavski texts and Uta Hagen and all of these remarkable thinkers in the world of acting, and taught me to really love and respect that craft. And so by the time I was 15, I opened up Westbrook Theater Works. I started directing, plays, a lot of musicals, did a ton of musicals.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What fun years. You must have had so much fun, though.
Oh, so much fun. And and then I got accepted to an early acceptance to NYU Film School. I'd already made several films as a teenager, and I won Best Picture at NYU in my senior year.
So cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
How many kids around you are like, so you inspire your own friends?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, look here. Yeah. The funny thing is, I had such a wonderful troupe of amazing people around me from childhood that a lot of my friends ended up like in my first film, in Jason Goes to Hell. I was only 23 when I directed the film, and I was the youngest writer-director ever hired for a major studio.
I know. I saw pictures of you when you did it, and I was like, you could tell that you were a young guy, and I was like, wow, that's just mind blowing that somebody of, you were so young to be able to do something so big and so accepted.
Yeah. Well, look, here's the thing. I never behaved like I was a kid. I behaved like a professional, and I knew I wanted to be treated that way. So I acted that way. And look, even my closest friends from school, from my childhood, my friend Adam Cranner is one of the leads of Jason Goes to Hell. We've known each other since we were 8 years old. My brother Kip, who is a remarkable actor, he was he played Marius on Broadway in Les Miserables. He was on a TV series, The New Leave It to Beaver, for 5 years. He's extraordinary talent, and he was one of the leads of Jason Goes to Hell. And then Kip and I ended up becoming writing partners and producing partners for a long time. So, I had this wonderful troupe of people that were all incredibly supportive of what I was doing. And in turn, I was able to support them. So kind of the theme of my career has been sort of teamwork and working as a team. And that's just the way I think. That's just the way I work at my best.
It's awesome, actually. It's almost like a family of, you're not blood related, but you're a family because you're in love with the same goal.
Yep. And the best work comes out of, look, you look at wonderful artists like Clint Eastwood. Well, Clint Eastwood's been working with the same team for forever.
Yes.
And that becomes his cinematic family, and that way you have a shorthand, so the days go quicker. The work is more fun. You're doing with people you already have an adoration for, and therefore the product comes out better because everybody's having a great time making it. And there's also a sense of ownership. I have my company in LA is Skeleton Crew. And that company is something I founded with my incredible, brilliant wife, Deborah, who has been my writing partner for decades.
I heard amazing things about her. And then I'm very nosy, so I had to watch a clip of her, and she's incrable.
Yeah, thank you.
Strong. She's a strong actress.
Yes, she's wonderful. She's really something else.
She was talking to me like I saw her in her clip. I would so totally believe every word from her.
Yeah, she's quite something. And my best friend, a guy named Brian Sexton, who is just a magician when it comes to producing. Just a guy who is able to make everything happen. And I got to tell you, that company, the whole philosophy behind it is that there is a sense of ownership among everybody that works on our projects, that they're not mine. They don't belong to me. They belong to the team. And when you let people have a sense of ownership, there's a different sense of pride that gets involved. So look, I mean, for the last 25 years, I have been teaching acting in Los Angeles.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think sharing your knowledge is a great thing because there's so many people that would be totally inspired by your work and feel like they're a part of a wonderful projects, just wonderful project.
Yeah. No, it's true. And
I love it.
I will tell you, one of the things that we do in the company is we've got one section of film where the troupe, my troupe of actors, which is, about 55 people, they are the people who perform in all these films. And it gives new voices a chance to have the kind of roles they've been studying for their whole lives. Because, look, let's be honest. I mean, most actors in LA, there's 100,000 actors in Los Angeles, 100,000 SAG members in LA. And those numbers are extraordinary. I mean, when you think about just the vast numbers of people, well, here's the thing. Most of those folks, if they get 5 lines on an NCIS spinoff, they're thrilled like that. And by the way, they're going to make good money for that. You can make a life doing that. But here's the thing. None of those actors studied to have 5 lines on a television show. They studied the masters. They've played Shakespeare. They've done the work to be able to do the kinds of roles that they have trained for. The problem is there's just not enough of them. And one of the things that our company strives to do is to allow new voices, people you haven't seen before, get roles where you're like, wow, this person's incredible. How do I not know them? And it gets people intrigued, including other casting and other directors and other production companies, to hire those people. So, I'm surrounded by just incredible artists all day long, every day. And look, they make me better at my job. Forget about what they learned from me. What I learned from them is extraordinary on a daily basis.
I can see that. I can totally see that because your ideas are all bouncing off each other.
Yeah.
The chemistry, the energy, the feel for the actual project or the product to be complete is a lot of work. But when you know the formula, if you can find the formula and you can work with that formula, which sounds like you've kind of found your own formula, how you want it to work. And I love that because you're teaching and you help, and you're going to teach somebody one thing and they're going to be super famous one day, and it's going to be all because of maybe even one of the smallest things you may have said. And that's amazing and incredible. So I love that you're doing that.
I think it's on everybody who has any level of success in our industry to try to pay it forward and pass it along to the next person coming up the line. I think that's how we strive to create excellence in the generations that follow us. And look, I'm an active filmmaker. I'm making a lot of stuff right now, but I'm working with 18-year-olds that are bright-eyed and want to take the world by storm, and that's an amazing energy that I always want to be able to contribute to.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I'm awesome. Very lucky. I'm very lucky.
You got so many projects going on now.
Yeah.
How was your experience during the COVID-19 phase where everybody had to shut down? How did you continue to focus forward without feeling like you're like the rest of the world is feeling stuck?
Right.
How did you continue to push forward? Because I've been watching you, of course, but how did you keep pushing forward? Because you're still working really hard.
We, what had happened was just truly a week before COVID-19 shutdowns happened, we'd had a meeting at one of the big agencies because there was a very famous actor who's buzzing around a film that we had written that we're producing. And when we sat down with his team, they said, look, he loves your writing. Do you have anything in the television space for him? He's trying to move into TV. This is a movie star. What do you have? And so I pitched sort of off the top of my head because I didn't have anything specific for this actor, but I had a feature screenplay that I was like, you know what? That would be a great TV series. So I pitched it as a television series. And they loved it, right? Oh my God, that's amazing. It's perfect for him. We love it, right? So
that's great.
So I turn around to my partner as COVID starts to hit. And I say, what do you think we should do so we can keep this going even though we're shut down? People can still read and we can still, deliver stuff. And he said, write the pilot. I said, great. So Deborah and I sat down, and in a couple of weeks, we wrote the pilot episode of what would be a 10-episode season 1 of the show. And I sent him the pilot, and Brian is a very tough critic, and he's one of our best note givers. And he called me up. He said, you want to know what I think about this pilot? I said, yeah, I really want to know. He says, great. I only have one note for you. I was like, oh, my God, one note. That's amazing. He said, yeah. He said, write the back 9. I said, what? He said, write the other 9 episodes. He says, I want to shoot this entire season of television as though it's one movie. We can block shoot the entire season of television. This is a brilliant way to do this. It's money saving. It's easier on the actors. Let's do it. And I said, you want 10 hours of television you want us to write? He's like, yeah, do it. He says, what else are we going to do? We're shut down. And here's what's crazy. Right? Not only did we write what ended up being 700 pages of material for this series.
Oh, okay? My word, you guys.
Which
wow.
I'm telling you is the thing I am the most proud of anything we've ever accomplished from a writing standpoint. But during that same time, I never missed a class. We took all of our classes that were being done live, and we made them virtual immediately. And we spent 15 months on Zoom with my students 2 nights a week. Not only did we do classes, but then as we would finish up episodes of the show, we would do Zoom readings with all my students performing the parts, so that we could hear this stuff come to life and check and see what works, what doesn't work, and do rewrites and whatnot. So it became this incredibly collaborative thing for all of these people that I love working with every week, that I was like, I'm not going to stop working with people because of this disease. Like, we're going to figure where there's a will, there's a way. And for us, Zoom was the way to keep classes going and for us to keep writing and being able to workshop material. And we came out of this COVID period with a stronger group of actors, with a 10-episode, season of television, and with 3 other screenplays that Deborah and I wrote during that time. So I did not take 1 second off. I didn't treat it like, okay, well, I guess we get to sit around and watch Netflix. I truly was like, this is an opportunity to create new work and to keep everybody inspired. Because here's the thing, so many people got so depressed during COVID, and I understand that. I mean, it's been, look, between that and the political system and everything else that's been going on, it's really hard. This is hard on everybody. And I can't watch the people I love go into that feeling of despair. So I was like, we will not do that. And it was great because here's the thing, we celebrated everybody's birthdays on Zoom parties. We did whatever we could do just to stay connected as a family, as an artistic family. And that's what kept people going. And I'm telling you, like, one of my students just wrote a play called Dirty Chai that just got accepted to the Fringe Festival. And I'm directing the play. It's a Bollywood-style musical that I'm directing in Los Angeles that we're going up next week.
Talk about a challenge.
Yep. And this all happened during COVID.
Oh, my gosh. It's crazy, the creative minds that have come out of the covert.
Yes.
It's incredible. It's so wonderful. And you got to work with some of the top television companies in the world.
Yeah.
You've been very lucky on many levels of working behind the camera. Mm-hmm. You also have taken your hand to acting.
Yes.
And now, do you enjoy acting, or are you just best fitted for the writing, the directing, producing?
I love acting. No, I love acting. I love acting because that was my first love. That was the first thing that I did as a kid, and I performed a tremendous amount as a child and into my 20s. And the thing about the acting for me was that I was offered a free ride in college as an actor, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do what I have already done before. I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I wanted to be at NYU, best film school on planet Earth, to really learn my craft. So I did that. But here's the thing. Whenever a part comes up that I feel like I'm going to be challenged by, then I get really excited. So for me, acting is one of those things that, like, I do it when I'm really excited about it, and I go, oh, this is a character I have to play. And it's usually someone, kind of unique and different and something I've never done before. So that's for me when I love to jump in for acting. But, as a director, if you're a director who loves actors, you're acting all the time. You're playing with other actors and playing scenes opposite them and getting them to a good place and challenging them. So I get to work that craft truly almost every day of my life.
I think it's very helpful for you on the other end, as far as being a director, to walk the walk with actors, because you need to have experience in order to create the character to be more like what your vision is.
Well, look, Deb and I do a lot of lecturing at colleges, mostly at film schools, and we talk to a lot of writers, directors, and producers. And what I always tell all of them, quite frankly, but mostly directors, I say, look, you don't have to be a good actor. That's not part of the job. But you have to understand the language of acting. And I beg all of the directors that I meet, get into a good acting class. You don't have to be good at being an actor. That's not the point. But if you can really just immerse yourself in the way actors speak to each other, in their language, in the way that they interact, if you can understand how to talk to an actor, how to respect an actor, you will get much better performances from all of them. So I agree with you. It's indispensable to understand acting as a director, and especially in this day and age when directors seem to be so much more concerned with the camera than they are with the human beings in front of that camera.
It's interesting what you find people do differently than you when they're, you know what I mean, like when they're behind the camera.
Sure.
What is something that you've learned for yourself that sets you apart from other directors?
Well, okay. on my first film, on Jason Goes to Hell, Jason Goes to Hell is the first and only Friday the 13th movie to have a 6-week rehearsal schedule before the movie shot one frame. So I spent 6 weeks talking with actors about their characters' lives. I spent 6 weeks running scenes, doing chemistry work with actors. For me, I think the difference between my style and a lot of other, and look, I'm sure there's a ton of brilliant directors out there and not so brilliant directors out there that follow a very similar pattern to what I do. The difference, I think, is in the connection and the language that I'm able to speak when I'm working with actors, where I help them to find their way through the darkness into choices that bring things to life for them. Not necessarily for me, but for them. I'm also a guy who I have never told an actor, never once, we have to move on. I can't give you another take. Anytime an actor comes...
let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. I want you to finish this. This is awesome.
Oh, no problem. Sounds great.
We'll be right back, everybody. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show, and I'm here with Adam Marcus, an incredible, very talented director, writer, producer. He wears so many hats behind the screen and in front of it. Welcome back to the show, Adam.
I'm so glad to be here, Debbie. So great.
Yeah, it's so incredible, and it's fun talking with you because you've just done so many things. If you could inspire one youth in your life, what would you tell them about becoming, about finding the direction to be what they want to be in this industry? Because it's hard.
Well, honestly, I will tell you exactly what I say, especially when I'm teaching at colleges, when I'm lecturing about filmmaking or even acting. I ask everybody in the room, look, if you can picture yourself doing anything else, anything in the world, and being as happy as you are being a filmmaker or being an actor, go do that. Because this is so hard. This is such a hard existence and such a hard life that if there's something else that gives you the same amount of joy or that you're as excited about, go do that. If you can't think of anything else that you would love as much as you love this, then you are blessed and cursed all at the same time, and you have to do this. You have to do this. And that's how you find real artists. Real artists are people who cannot survive, cannot spend one day of their life thinking, oh my God, I'm not creating, I'm not acting, I'm not making a film, I'm not doing. And by the way, this goes for all the arts, sculpting, painting, any of it. When I was 9 years old, my dad raced from New York City to Connecticut for the second day, the first screening of the original Star Wars. Right, so I'm 9 years old. He had seen it in Manhattan the night before and flipped out over it. Was like, I have to take my boys to this first thing in the morning. So we rush to the theater. We sit down to watch the movie. Within the first minute of the film, the moment that the starships go right overhead and this like extraordinary moment that changed cinema history, I gasped. I gasped. I pointed at the screen and I said, I want to do that. And my father, because I was 9, thought I wanted to be an astronaut. and I said, no, I want to make that. My dad took me immediately from the theater. We went to Sam Goody's, back when there was a Sam Goody's. He bought me the soundtrack of the movie, and we went to a little bookstore next door, and he bought me a couple of books about making movies, about special effects and making movies. And again, I'm 9 years old. I read those books, 2 books, by the time he came back to see us the next weekend. And he took me right back to the same bookstore, bought me a new book.
Wow.
And so by the time I was like 12, I had this extraordinary library of text that I had learned all of it. I had memorized all of this text because I loved so much this idea of creating stories in front of a camera. I was so in love with it. And here's the thing, Debbie, from 9 years old to where I am standing right now in my life, I have never spent one day of my life not creating. And that is strictly because I found a focus very young. I was lucky to find it very young. But I found a focus. I found a dream. And I'm in pursuit of that dream every day. And no matter how many good things have happened or bad things have happened or, trips along the way in Hollywood, I have never changed my focus to my first love, which is this life.
And it shows because you just looking at your resume, it really shows how dedicated you've been. And it's so hard. I mean, I couldn't even imagine you could tell everything about all the things you've done in 1 hour, let alone 3 weeks. You've just done so many different things.
Yeah.
What direction in your career that you believed was the best direction you've ever taken in the last 5 years?
Oh, in the last 5 years, that would be starting Skeleton Crew. Starting Skeleton Crew was truly the best thing I ever did in my career, because I've been making movies for so long, and Deborah and I write a lot of films that we don't produce and that I don't direct. The writing has always been sort of the thing that put food on the table. And the thing about writing movies, especially studio movies, is the money is terrific. You're very happy to be asked to come to the table. It's really an honor. But you're invariably going to get rewritten at some point, or the director is going to rewrite something, or the editor is going to cut things. And what happens is you get to a movie theater to watch the thing you wrote, and it's not the thing you wrote. It's a different thing.
You don't recognize your own work.
Right. and your name is on it. So then you'll get, let's say you get a bad review for something in a movie, but you didn't write the thing that they didn't like. And you're like, wait a second, that's not mine, but I'm getting the credit for the bad thing. So here's the thing. You get to a point, we got to a point where I had worked with enough kind of, people who didn't care about the craft. They were making a widget. They were making something that's a piece of commerce, which I totally respect, by the way. I respect that. I hate when people get upset about that. I'm like, listen, guys, it's show business. And honestly, if there's no business, there ain't no show. So you have to respect the dollars that are put in and the way they get those dollars back. You have to respect that. But here's the thing. I got to a place where I was so tired of watching my work be changed so dramatically by people who think that they know better. There's my favorite writer in all of cinema is William Goldman, who wrote Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, who wrote Marathon Man, The Princess Bride, Misery, just remarkable genius writer, All the President's Men. And he famously once said, and it's been quoted forever, nobody knows nothing. And it's about our industry because nobody knows nothing. And the thing is, you're being told by people who don't know, who all think they're geniuses too, how this thing isn't going to work unless you do this. Okay? Every single hit movie, every Academy Award winner, every Best Picture winner, they all have stories about the studio executives, about the head of a studio, about the producer, all of whom said, this ain't going to work if you don't do it this way. And they didn't do it that way, and it was a masterpiece. If you just look, let's just take Rocky, right? If Sly Stallone had sold the script because they wanted to buy it for a ton of money, and suddenly Robert Redford is Rocky, that is not a great movie. That's a nonsense movie. Yet Sly Stallone stuck to his guns, played Rocky, and became Sylvester Stallone. So I took the moment with creating Skeleton Crew, which we created 5 years ago. That's when I said, I've had enough. I want the work that I do to be the work that I do. If I get dinged for something, if somebody doesn't like something I've made, that's fine, as long as I'm the one who made the choice. And the first movie we created is a movie called Secret Santa that truly is my favorite film that I've directed. It is a black comedy / horror / Christmas festival movie. The movie has been all over the world. It has won awards all over the world. It has played festivals truly in every corner of the earth. And there are the reaction I get from festival to festival to festival in each one of these countries is so extraordinary, so much love. And I used all my actors. My brilliant wife, Deborah, plays the lead of the movie. She's incredible. And it's this nasty little Christmas carol that is incredibly fun and bloody and profane. And, when I go to festival audiences with the movie, I always stand in front of them at the beginning and I say, hey, listen, if all of you are not offended by the end of this movie, I didn't do my job correctly.
Good for you.
And I'm telling you, like, we don't do anything in a PC way, but we're talking about sort of the ills of the world, which I think is also the company's responsibility. One of the things that Skeleton Crew does is we will not make a movie unless there is something more being said than the story you're looking at. So, the horror genre, which of course is what I'm most known for in film, even though I've won awards for romantic comedies I've made and for thrillers and other things. Here's the thing. Horror films are the greatest delivery system for thought-provoking material. If you look at, let's say, George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, which started the zombie genre, the zombie subgenre.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at that film, people think of it as, oh, it's a great zombie movie. Yes, it is. But really, what is that movie? Well, that movie is about the Vietnam War. And then the movie is about the Civil Rights Act. And when you realize that that's what George Romero was thinking when he created this movie, and you watch the film through those eyes, you go, oh my God, that's really what this is about. It's an extraordinary piece of cinema. And what's wonderful is the audience gets these messages subliminally, so they're getting their vegetables while eating a big bowl of ice cream. So entertain first, teach second, but always have a point. Always be teaching. So for me, Skeleton Crew, that's really what the company is about. And so, in the last 5 years, that's the best choice I made. I will tell you the best choice of direction I took really early in my career was right after I had done Jason Goes to Hell. And remember, while I was doing Jason Goes to Hell, I produced a movie at Disney with Cunningham Productions called My Boyfriend's Back. So before I'd even done Jason Goes to Hell, when I was 21, I helped to set up a movie at Disney, which was originally called Johnny Zombie and then became My Boyfriend's Back. So I had that movie going. Then I had Jason Goes to Hell. Right after Jason Goes to Hell, I got offered every horror sequel in town. Just a ton of, Amityville 97, Pumpkinhead 2, Leprechaun Back 2, Da Hood. I had all of these different movies thrown at me. And I said no to all of them. And I was like, look, I don't want to be the guy who has a part number after every film he makes. I love the horror genre, but I wanted to tell new stories. I wanted to tell, interesting things. So here's what happens. My brother, Kip, who had been on Broadway, as I said earlier, in Les Mis, had written a screenplay and brought it to me. He and I workshopped the script for a few months, and we turned around and put the financing together in New York City of just a couple $100,000 and went and shot this movie, Let It Snow, which we had this incredible cast in, including Bernadette Peters, who came out of a 9-year retirement from film. She hated doing movies. Hated doing movies.
What an honor.
And by hook or by crook, we got this cast together. Stephen Colbert, it's one of Stephen Colbert's first movies. Henry Simmons. The cast in this movie is like a who's who of remarkable talents, right? So we make this film, and the film goes to Sundance. It's a huge hit at Sundance. So much so they had to add screenings at Sundance. We won the Los Angeles International Film Festival, American Film Institute. We played Deauville, France. We played Avignon. We were everywhere. And then it got a worldwide sale. And that movie put me into the television realm. Suddenly all these TV people wanted to speak with Kip and I. And in 2 years after writing and directing that film, the two of us had 5 television deals at different studios and different networks. So that happened. On a roll. But that happened because I said no to the easy choice. There was an easy path. I could have just been a journeyman director who just went from job to job to job, getting hired for stuff and shooting it.
Yeah.
And that's great. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's a terrific thing. If that's the way you want to go, fantastic.
It's a great thing because you decided not to choose the first thing that came around.
Right.
You made a decision that it wasn't the right time or whatever, for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I also didn't want to be put in a box. Everybody was handing me horror, and I said, listen, I love horror. I'm going to come back to that genre. I'm not going to abandon it. I love it. But here's the thing. I have a lot of other things to say. And Let It Snow was this sweet romantic comedy that was life-affirming, where there's no blood, there's nobody getting hacked to pieces, that was really about the human spirit. And I went, no, I want to tell that story. I want to tell a complicated, interesting story about love. So for me, those turns in the road have been the best turns I've taken and the most exciting turns, and have allowed me to tell stories that I believe in rather than just the easy sale.
That's amazing. And you now, I didn't know. Well, I knew after a while, but you did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series.
Yes.
Now you did that in the 3D.
Yes, this was
What's
the one. The
Now
one Deborah and I
that's
did was
really
3D.
that's breaking new ground.
Well, it was for us. It sure was. We'd never written anything for 3D before. There are all kinds of rules that go into how you do that. That was
Totally wonder about that too. About
Mhm.
the difficulty and what's the difference.
Well, the
I
difference
mean,
is you have to think about the effects while writing the actual screenplay. So, look, I always say Deborah and I have made an incredible amount of money killing teenagers on paper. It's sort of the thing that we do. And the thing is, you always want to come up with like interesting ways that people are going to get, are going to end their lives horribly. Like you want to come up with fun stuff for the audience because that's
gotta be different. Yeah, you
that's
want
the
to do
fun.
everybody's done forever.
Exactly. So the thing is that when you're doing the stuff in 3D, you have to think about how things are going to hit the lens. So
Yeah.
you want the audience as interactive with the movie as possible, and that starts right on the page. So Deb and I truly are like running around our house, trying to figure out ways to kill that where stuff is going to happen to the camera, not just blood flying, but other things. And so that's one of the complications. The other thing is, look, shooting a 3D movie when you're actually shooting in 3D is very costly, very time consuming. And the cameras are huge. They're big cameras. Well, that also changes the way you're going to write the film, because every time you write a difficult set piece, you also have to think, how are they going to get the camera into that spot? So suddenly it's a lot more sets being built. So you have to think of things in this context of production is just as important to the writing process as the character work you're doing on the page. So it was definitely tricky. We were very, very proud of the script that we wrote. And honestly, this was kind of the movie that forced us to start our own production company, because here's what happened. We wrote a screenplay that we were super proud of, that the studio loved. And then Toby Hooper, the man who wrote and directed the original Texas Chainsaw, called Deb and I at home because he had read our script. And he said to me, this was before he passed away, he said, I have to tell you, Adam, Deb, this is the first true sequel to my movie. He said, a lot of people have made sequels. This is the first true sequel. This is a movie I'm proud to have follow my film. I got to tell you, like, that's one of those moments. I turned to Deb. I said, you know what, honey, you can just put me in a box. Like, life goals are done. Like, I've done everything I need to do. But by the way, by the time we get to the theater, by the time this movie hits the screen, the studio had given the project to the producer and said, look, we're going to distribute the movie. You have to get the movie made. Suddenly, the producer could only get half the money that he originally had allocated for the budget. And so they cut up our script. They brought in another writer to fix stuff to make that all work when they took stuff out that was too expensive that we created. And then the director started tinkering. And the next thing you know, we have a screenplay that's not really ours, where we're kind of embarrassed by some of it. And of course, our names are all over it. So that was one of those films that we had such a good time writing it. We loved working with Lionsgate. Like, so much of it was so positive and wonderful. And then you end up like going, wow, that's not my movie. So it inspired us to move to a new paradigm, which was great.
Yeah, that's such a bummer. Now, you're working on some projects now.
Yes.
Can you talk about some of them? Sure.
We're doing a fantastic new movie called Dread. We're going to be shooting it overseas, actually. We have a wonderful producing partner out of South Africa, a guy named Anton Ernst. And Anton had made our film Momentum several years ago that Morgan Freeman, Olga Kurylenko, and James Purefoy were the stars of, that Deborah and I wrote and produced. So he's tremendous talent, this guy. He has set up a production for us overseas. We are making what is going to end up being the biggest film that Skeleton Crew has made so far. I'm directing the film, and Deborah and I wrote it, and Brian Sexton is producing, called Dread. and it's based on a true story about 3 young women who go to a conference in New Orleans, and they end up in a hotel where there's a human trafficking ring going on.
Oh,
and
wow.
these women discover it, and they try to get out of the hotel to save these women that are trapped in the hotel. And there are men alerted to come to the hotel and stop these women. And it becomes a battle for survival of these women trying to get out of this hotel alive. And it is based on a true story, harrowing event. So it's based in reality, which is wonderful for me as a director. It gives me a chance to tether my actors to something. It's also not really a horror film. It's a thriller. And it's got a ton of action in it. And that is really fun for me, like to play with some new ideas and new pyrotechnics and new things we're going to be doing on the movie. So that is the next feature.
That'll push you forward futuristically. That'll be so wonderful to have, just that extra knowledge.
Yeah. Yep. Look, the other thing is, again, as I said about Skeleton Crew, we're really trying to say something with this, and the problem of human trafficking coming out of all of the port cities in the United States, the number of women who go missing every day, it is so extraordinary. It's such a terrifying number that we're tackling that head on and doing it in kind of a ferocious, female-driven way. So that's very exciting.
I think that's great. No, I think that's awesome because, people out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
So if you don't talk about it,
yep,
they're going to forget about it. And then we're going to lose all these people that deserve to be home with their families.
That's right. And that's what this movie is taking on. So we're doing that. We have a television series that I mentioned earlier that we are doing right now. And that is a movie that a television show that I'm madly in love with, which is, again, based in reality, about an 11-year-old boy who has a photographic memory. He's this rather brilliant child. And when he's 11 years old, his best friend, this little girl, is murdered, and he finds her body. She's raped and murdered at 11, and he finds her body. Wow. And we cut to 6 years later, and this little boy is now 17, and he is a shell of the person he once was. Terrified of the world, terrified to step outside. He's brilliant, but he doesn't show his brilliance. He keeps quiet to himself, so nobody really knows how extraordinary this kid is. He just seems like this weird kid. And for 6 years, this boy has been obsessing about what happened to his best friend when he was 11, so much so that he's been reading every crime book he can get his hands on. He's been studying crime patterns along the Eastern Seaboard, and another murder happens in town that's exactly the same MO. And this child decides that the adult world is incapable of stopping this, so he has to. So now this boy, who is terrified of his own shadow, now has to go up against and find this serial killer and stop them. So it's kind of a young Sherlock Holmes.
The edge of your seat type of
Yes.
stuff. I love that.
Yes.
I love that. Wow. That's so crazy. I love that you're doing all these amazing things. I'd love to have your wife and you come back on the show again at a different time.
Oh, I'd love it.
Where can people get in touch with you?
People can get in touch with me. The easiest place to go, honestly, is Facebook. I love Facebook. I'm not crazy about the political nonsense that happens on Facebook, but I do love the arts and the camaraderie and the community on Facebook. So you can find me at Adam Marcus on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram at Skeleton Crew Pro and Hearts of Darkness on Skeleton Crew, which is the name of the documentary that our company is producing about my first feature, Jason Goes to Hell, which is being screened this Friday night by the American Cinematheque. They're doing an anniversary showing of it that I'm going to be speaking at in Los Angeles at the Los Feliz 3.
So cool.
And we're going to be shooting part of the documentary at the screening itself. So it's going to be tremendous fun. That's this Friday.
Awesome. What fun.
Yeah.
You get to have fun now with some of your old projects.
Absolutely.
People love them so much. Well, we're almost out of time. Is there anything that we didn't cover tonight that you'd like people to know about?
Well, I got to tell you, I'd be thrilled to come back on with Deborah, and the two of us can chit chat more. And if there's anything we didn't cover, we can talk about that, and you can ask her about her brilliant career. She's done amazing things.
Yes, she's incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We had so much fun talking to you about your wonderful career. Now you've got a movie that's going to be coming out where people can listen to it or buy it right now.
Yeah, right now, Secret Santa, my latest film is for rent on Amazon. You can also buy it on Blu-ray and DVD, and it's also on Google Play and on iTunes.
Excellent. Awesome.
Yeah, Secret Santa. By the way, Secret Santa 2018, directed by Adam Marcus. There's another Secret Santa that's, I think, 2015. That's not us. Ours is the 18. Yeah.
Well, we're out of time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Have a great week.